Welcome, everybody, to another BOLDcast podcast discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Today we'll be discussing...
How about your mic?
I go through all this trouble freaking out about you.
I know.
Did you do two? Are you on 2 or 2.5?
I'm on 2.
Not 2.5.
I was on 2.5.
Just keep it on 2.5.
Okay.
Anyway, welcome, everybody, to another BOLDcast discussion. I'm Carson.
I'm Lindsay.
And this is our discussion of the Hunter exam arc in Hunter x Hunter. I've seen the show, obviously. At this point, all the reactions are, I suppose, out on YouTube, but we just announced it today as of recording this. So, we're going to be doing these arc by arc throughout the whole show, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So...
Yeah, this is something that we wanted to do. We sort of thought of it in middle Naruto Shippuden, but at the time we didn't have as nice of a setup as this. Mm-hmm. So we did the Pain one, which is obviously on our channel, and the is Naruto worth watching and stuff like that. But we didn't have the space or the time to actually do this after every arc. Mm-hmm. But we decided, since we're starting a new show that's fairly long, and we have this nice new setup that we put in so much effort to make, we're going to actually do it. Mm-hmm. And we hope that you enjoy.
Indeed. Is there anything you want to do right off the bat, or you just want to get right into questions of what people asked us? What do you think? I guess there's just general impressions of the show so far.
I'm really liking it so far. I really like the... I don't know what the right word is, but the very whimsical, very fun feeling of it, even when horrible stuff happens, is just kind of brushed past immediately. The theme song kicks in. They're marching down down the road. Mm-hmm. What's in the past is in the past. You just rip someone's heart out. That's fine. Let's have a pillow fight. It's just kind of fun, and I like it because it's very consistent. So it's just this is just how it is. Yeah, it's not oh, we're trying to meld these two things together of a really happy and innocent and fun main character with really dark things, and it doesn't go to it could very easily, if it wasn't handled in the right way, it could just not work very well. But they've done a really good job of striking the perfect balance of this dark stuff is happening, there's some tragic backstories, there's this, there's that, but at the same time, it's still a good time. We're having fun, and there's a lot of wholesome moments. And I know you said in I'm not sure when the other one was made. 1999. Okay. Yeah, I know you said in that one it takes a little bit of a darker tone to it. And it's very clear that there's a lot of material for that in the show so far. But I do think, just from I obviously haven't seen that, so I wouldn't be able to fully compare them, but I do think that the sort of lighthearted tone does add to the just the watchability. Yeah. It doesn't feel like we watched 20 episodes in 2 days, because it's just so fun. It's just pulling you along on the journey, and really keeps your spirits up and keeps you engaged just enough and relaxed just enough, and it's not demanding. It demands your attention, but not in a way that's draining of I have to pay, I have to be so zeroed in at every second. It's there's the moments for that, and then there's the moments where you can relax and have fun, and it does a really good job. I agree. Of making an enjoyable watching experience with also a compelling story and cool stuff.
Right. Derp Dap asked or said, a common complaint about Hunter x Hunter is that this first arc is too slow, boring, no action, etc. How do you think it stacks up against early parts of the battle shonen, say Naruto or Jujutsu Kaisen? Both manga Hunter x Hunter had a big influence on. And yeah, I think that's an interesting thing to talk about, because if you actually and in the comments of that, I'll actually look at the comments. I think somebody said Simple Thing said, IMO, it's definitely weak compared to Naruto. However, it does its job in introductory arc. I actually enjoy the Hunter exam, but this is coming from someone that thinks OG Naruto stomps Shippuden. And even then, I think that like the arc, like a lot of people say that it is a common complaint that like a lot of people think that the Hunter exam arc is kind of slow. But if you really compare the first 24 episodes of Hunter x Hunter versus the first 24 episodes or whatever, or I guess 21 episodes, which we're reviewing right now, like the first main big arc to like the Land of Waves arc, for example, if you compare like pacing and how slow it is, Hunter x Hunter, so much more happens. There is a lot more violence, but it's not focused on so much. Like it's not as intense about like fighting, et cetera, et cetera. There are fights and there is a lot of death. But it's deceptive, and I think it's because of that whimsical sort of nature that puts people off. I don't think it's actually has anything to do with the real content or the pace of the show. Yeah, I just think it's really interesting because like it is a common thing. But then I think back to like the Land of Waves arc, and while it was a well written arc, it was stretched out so much repeating shit, and I just don't know what to make of that because like. And if you think about the introductory arc of Jujutsu Kaisen, that was way too fast, and it's like the first 2 episodes of Jujutsu, it feels kind of disconnected from the characters because the action itself feels kind of just like a set piece to kind of hype you up, not necessarily that like the action itself doesn't seem to have much to do, like the way people fight doesn't have much to do with like their personality. You know what I mean? Like the way the fights are choreographed and stuff like that in the start of Jujutsu, to use that example. I just think that in terms of content, it does such a good job of introducing everything, and it doesn't it does have a lot of action. It's very action packed. Everything's constantly, there's new stuff all the time. It's, I guess, a little bit slow when they're in the tower, but like that's really only like 2 or 3 episodes, and there's like multiple things. There's crazy fights. It's just that the action is very quick and kind of over in a second. Blink and you'll miss it type thing, which is kind of more like real life.
Yeah, I think it's hard for me to compare them because obviously when I first watched Naruto, we were just starting the channel. I obviously, clearly from our reactions, didn't really like the first arc very much, because I had a camera pointed in my face and it was kind of awkward, and it, like, you know what I mean? It was just not like the ideal first time watching Naruto experience. Yeah. For like many reasons. But looking back, obviously the start of Naruto is really strong. Land of Waves arc is really good. And I think if I watched it again now, I would like it a lot. But I think the start of Hunter x Hunter, I can see why people would maybe think it's a little bit slower, just because, yeah, even though so much is happening, like literally a new thing happens every episode. Yeah. Like it's a new fight or a new like task or a new, like something new is happening every single episode. It's crazy. And I don't think, I never felt like, oh, this is taking a long time, where I do think in Naruto it was sometimes like, okay, like next thing. Yeah. I think just the tone of Hunter x Hunter, because some of them, it's like, yeah, the action, this is the thing. It's like Hisoka
fights 8 guys, but it's over in a second because he kills them all.
Or when he's in the tower and just like kills that one guy, that fight is like 5 minutes long. You could have turned that fight into 5 episodes long if you wanted to, and just like really focused in on like the moves and stuff.
It's really only a minute long.
I guess it was really short, but I think that's the thing, is like a lot of the like things that would be stretched out in another show is kept very short, and then just like them going on to do the next thing or hanging out is a little bit longer.
But that's where it's interesting to me that like people really talk about it like, oh, nothing happens. It's so slow and boring. I guess it just
depends on what you want, because then comparing it to Jujutsu, which is a lot newer than those, both Naruto and Hunter x Hunter, it's kind of hard to compare to that, because that's not done in the same way. Like things like Jujutsu and Demon Slayer and these like newer shonens are not presented in the same way. They're it's not like, oh, we're gonna be doing an episode a week for the next however many years.
Yeah.
We're doing a season. What can we? So it's structured differently. It's like, okay, we have two or three episodes to like set it up, and then we're moving on to the next thing, and that arc is like 3 episodes, and then we're doing the next thing, and you know what I mean? It's a very different. So I don't know if it's that fair of a comparison, but I definitely feel more attached to characters when you have time to get attached to them, rather than just like, oh, it's the main character, I should like them, I guess, even though they don't have a personality as much, because it's just kind of like thrown at you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess. Sure.
And I guess it also just depends on what you want. Like, if you want the first arc to build up to a really big and explosive fight with like high stakes and like real brutal action, and that you want that fight, you want to like get into that fight and like really be in that moment. Like, if that is what you want,
yeah,
then Hunter x Hunter doesn't really do that, because they go through a few fights and then...
But the fights, are like over in a second, or it's like somebody... It's never like... We haven't... Or at this point, we've not seen a like balanced battle between two equally matched people.
Yeah.
We breezed over it a little bit with like Kurapika and Hisoka, but that was like... Hisoka was clearly holding back, and it was like skimmed over in a second. There hasn't been a moment where it's like, oh, these people who are like both really badass are fighting. It's always... And it's to Hunter x Hunter's advantage that it does this. It's that it's not trying to be that. It's not trying to be a beam struggle every single time between two rivals,
And
equally matched things. It's like Gon trying to get the name tag, or, you know, whatever. There's a million things, but there's always something to it. Or it's like a lot of compromising and like dealing with people. Like when Kurapika and Leorio kind of are dealing with Hisoka, it's like they sort of work out a deal, or like Kurapika. There's like the stakes aren't just life or death. It's
there's
like
other ways.
It's like everything's kind of a game or a gamble. Like this is worth this much to you, so it's actually not worth it for you to kill us. Really, it's more worth it for you to just take this, no fight, and we'll just leave, and we'll go this way, you go that way. Here's our money, basically. We'll bargain with you. Everything's kind of a bargain.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's maybe what people don't want when they think when they say it's slow.
And I think that's also just like the setting of it. They're all taking the same exam, basically. So even though you can like kill other people in the exam, like Hisoka just killed all those guys that came after him, like 10 guys, and it's like, you know, not a big deal at all, because everyone's getting killed all over the place. But it's just not the same as in a show like Naruto or Jujutsu, where there are like the good guys and then the bad guys directly fighting each other in like a real life combat scenario.
Yeah.
It's like if people are fighting, even for like the final fight of the exam, it was, you weren't allowed to kill the other people.
Yeah.
So, and obviously, Gon getting like brutally beaten up was like, that was really intense and really crazy, but it's not quite the same as some of these other things.
It's what I was talking about in that one episode in the episode where Gon gets his hunter license, is that it's not about morality. The show's not about morality. It's not about good and evil, and life isn't such a precious thing in this world. Like it's something to be relished, and like, you know, take your life in your own hands, and it's your responsibility what you do with it. But like the series doesn't place such a high value on it to the point where it's like something that people need to protect, or that the main characters are trying to protect. It's more about choices. It's more about like, you know, that's why it's all a choice on Togashi's part to not like make this, oh, you're gonna kill my friend type thing. Like, it's to that be like the whole thing of the whole show, because then it becomes very binary. It becomes very, this guy is, you know, fighting for this. There's Kurapika, who has a very kind of righteous revenge-based backstory, and Killua, who's kind of traumatized by his family or whatever, seemingly. And, you know, there are, you know, pretty one-sided things about the series, but it's not like the from what we've seen so far and throughout a lot of the show, it makes a point not to just devolve into basic morality, good versus evil, because that's boring as fuck. It's way better to, like, if it's all about exchanging things and you know, if life isn't as precious, then it's all about, you know, what people are searching for, their motivations. That's what's really important. What are you going to do with your life? You know, why does Jing want to go be a hunter and leave his son? Oh, well, there must be something more important than, you know, something as important as your child. You know, like these things, it all kind of works together. It's all working on the same level of life itself. Just being alive and just living as long as you can isn't important. It's about what you do with your life. It's about the adventure and the friends you make along the way, literally. And you could die at any moment, and it's about, you know, what you do with your life. It's awesome. And there's something good about that. When you kind of disregard the basic morality, everything else kind of opens up, and the possibilities are kind of endless. Yeah, and it is kind of disregarding it as well.
Yeah,
it's cool. What do you think of Gon refusing to yield / forfeit to Hanzo?
I think it's kind of funny because he's just so dedicated, but I love how he just he can't get killed, but he's not gonna surrender. And it's just funny because he was so, like, upbeat about it in the moment, like after when he like pulled a fast one on him and, like, flipped him around, and his arms all, like, broken and stuff, and he's just like, oh well, he basically just, like, forced Hanzo to have to give up because he's not gonna kill him. And then, but he wasn't even, like, that upset and didn't hold it against him of, like, being brutally beaten for hours. He was just like, oh, you know, that's just part of it. And then gets all mad when it was, like, a forfeited match on Hanzo's part. He's like, no, I wanted to win. It's like,
that's lame.
It's like, are you all right? Are you all right? I don't think he's definitely, like, I don't know, got something going on inside his head.
What do you think Hisoka whispered to Kurapika? These are by all the artsy, by the way.
I don't know if I don't know. Maybe something about what was that? Whatever that. I keep forgetting what they're called. With the spider tattoos, the group that he's after. What's it called?
What do you think it's called?
I can't think of it. I can't think of it right now.
Think of some synonyms that you think might. You can't remember anything about it?
I can't think of it. All I can remember is the spiders.
The Phantom Troop.
The Phantom Troop. Yeah. I'm wondering if it might be, if he, like, found out about, like, all of that and what happened to his family or something, if he just, like, said, like, oh, that, or if he just said, like, it's something about, like, oh, I'll just rather wait to fight you when you're better or something like that. I'm not really sure.
About how he's unripened fruit.
Yes. Something weird and creepy.
Mm-hmm. And then the last one from all the artsy. What are your guesses for Gon's dad's absence?
I mean, well, we kind of got told what his deal was. Whether or not, like, he seemed like he was, like, relatively genuine on that part of, like, oh, he was, like, doing... I was so inspired because he's, you know, restoring all these ruins and stuff. Mm. But, I mean, that could also just not be true. And he could be doing something else because everything's classified on him. And if that's all he was doing, why would all his information be classified if he was, like, well known to be doing that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like there's still more mysteries there. I'm hoping it's something cool. I'm hoping that when we do, like, either meet him or, like, you know, learn more about it as the story goes on, I don't know. I don't have any like super strong ideas, but I'm kind of open to whatever because the story is presented in a way that kind of makes you open to anything.
Yeah.
Because anything's possible. So I'm not like locked in, and I have trouble to like think of like where the story is gonna go. You know what I mean? Like in a story like Naruto, where it's like very set up and very like he has a goal, a solid goal. There's these villains that have a solid goal. There's like the world operates in this specific way.
Yeah.
It's easier to like, okay, then this is going to happen, then this is going to happen. Not sure exactly how, but like you can kind of piece together the story structure. But when the story has the ability to do whatever it wants, I feel like I can't accurately predict even what might be cool, because it could be anything and anything could be cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's something like if you mentioned Naruto with like how structured it is. It's like once they kind of establish the world of like ninja and shit and all the different countries, like once like if you have been sort of experiencing shonen storytelling for long enough, and you're introduced to a world with a boy who lost his parents with a secret magical ability, who lives in a world of, they establish like the way the mercenary system of the ninja work, the leadership and like the echelons of powers. Like there's a clear rank system that the character will probably go through. There's the leader that they want to become. They say they want to aspire to be the leader of this place.
There's their mentor that will die. There's their best friend who will do this.
There's the other countries and nations that have similar problems and all kind of are warring with each other. It's like, if you know all, like with all that's introduced at a certain point and you know enough about shonen storytelling, the story like writes itself almost. Like the magic it comes from the character interactions and the way that you develop the powers and the designs, all the visual shit. That's where the real like personal touch comes, and how things get how it's not just plagiarism, how it's not just like all Harry Potter or all the Bible basically. So when you think of something like Naruto and you try to compare it, it's like it kind of writes itself. And then that's why I also like Dragon Ball. Like at one point I was watching through all of Dragon Ball, because I actually haven't seen every episode of Dragon Ball, like the original and Dragon Ball Z. But like it's funny watching like even part one of Dragon Ball, just Dragon Ball, because it has a similar thing. It's like there's so much freedom of like an adventure when like the main character is just a kid from the mountains or a kid from an island and is just going off into the world and wants to do something, and there's like a vague goal in the distance, but it's like kind of whatever. Like we are, first of all, Gon is already a hunter. That's one thing. Like he's already a hunter. He took the hunter exam. And that's just it. So that's interesting. And it's like, if you think about Dragon Ball, there's the Dragon Balls to get a wish, but like there's no telling who else is looking for the Dragon Balls. There's no telling what else is out in the world. There's dinosaurs and cat people and martial arts tournaments and shit. And as Dragon Ball goes on, it kind of changes and stuff like that, and becomes more like a Naruto type thing, where it's like, okay, you're not just a random kid from the mountains. Oh, you're a Saiyan. Like, just think about how, you obviously don't know, but like for the people out there, think about how the storytelling of the Dragon Ball series, like in relation to like Hunter x Hunter, as kind of an example, how it changes. Like once you find out about Saiyans and stuff like that, once he grows up, it's like it completely changed. First of all, it goes from a fantasy to a sci-fi, but it also like it introduces a very clear trajectory of like, oh, you're part of this ancient fighting race, and this is like your cousin, and he's your prince, and he came back, and you're fighting, and he's your rival, and then, oh, this other guy took it over, so now you gotta go fight him and avenge everybody. Oh, now you have a power up, and it just kind of rolls on. But that's the cool thing about Hunter x Hunter, is that because it came after, it's also one thing like about on the storytelling shit. I think I have a couple more questions from our Patreon Discord server, which you can check out, link in the description, if you can get the access to our uncuts and everything for Hunter x Hunter. Just a little reminder. Also, leave a like and subscribe if you're this far in. What was I even saying? I just plugged everything and now I'm forgetting.
That's a good thing about Hunter x Hunter, is because it came after. And you're talking about Dragon Ball.
because so that's the thing about all the story structure shit. it's amazing how old Hunter x Hunter is at this point. It started, I forget the exact publication start date, but in the 90s.
Yeah.
Early 90s, mid 90s. The first anime adaptation came in 1999, and it's been on hiatus a lot, but it still technically is like in publication. Togashi, I think his back is like totally screwed up, and that's why he's having trouble drawing, because he can't like sit and draw. He has to like draw with his tablet like this because he's like really fucked up. It sucks. That's one positive thing that happened with Miura's death anyway. But regardless, like the awareness that people have is what I'm saying.
I was
like people are more aware after what happened to Miura. People are like stop giving Togashi shit as much for like taking a hiatus. No. But my point in all this is it's just that this is really long-winded. I'll probably cut a lot of this out. But it's really cool how old it is and how subversive it is in like the basic structure of its storytelling. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, we'll get more into that as we go along. What's your opinion on the world? You kind of talked about this, but this is from Meme Planet. What from the Discord server? What's your opinion of the world so far?
I like it. I think we talked about this kind of early on, like within the first 5 or 6 episodes, I want to say, and it's nice. I feel like we haven't seen very much of the world, but just the way that it's been explored so far with like whatever type of creature is come up with at that moment. Oh, we're going to do some spider eagles just because, or like these weird like things that are flying around the tower and just random stuff.
Yeah.
The butterflies that scent blood. It's all really cool and very creative. And I really like it because it's not tied to anything specifically. It's not like, oh, now that we know these butterflies exist, this is going to be a reoccurring thing for every single time someone is injured, then these butterflies are going to be around. Like it's not done in a way that binds the story or the world to anything specific. There's all different countries. You can see it's a very vast world. So anything, it's very similar just to the way that they're telling stories. Like literally anything is on the table. Anything can happen. Stuff can come back. Stuff cannot come back. Stuff can be specific to one area. Stuff might not be specific to one area. Stuff might be, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't.
It's very regional.
Yeah, it can just kind of do whatever it wants.
Yeah,
like everything in the story can just kind of do whatever.
It's really cool, like how. Yeah, and what I like is that like we get to know areas in the story, but it's like I think it because of what we were talking about with Naruto and like developing all the countries and shit. I think that on purpose it doesn't it stays open-ended. It doesn't like establish shit that isn't relevant. So like you learn about something, and then if it's like you're going there, like with Kukuru Mountain where we're kind of going next, it's like we'll learn a little bit about maybe animals there or the people there, but like we're not going to learn about like, oh, in this continent there's like this type of people and they live here. It doesn't overload you with that, but it gives it because of it introduces like the animals or the people of like different areas. So we learned a little bit about Zaban, which is like very glossed over and I completely forgot about because you know the world's so vast. It's just cool. Yeah, like you said, it's regional and we explore different places and it's just it feels open.
I also think because they're not like the story at this point at least is just very focused on like because we have a main character that is basically at all times only thinking of his one immediate goal that is in front of him, whether it's passing the hunter exam and then within that, oh, I need to get the tag, so I'm gonna ignore everything else and the fact that I'm being hunted as well because this is my thing. It's like why we don't need to learn about the rest of the world because he doesn't care at this point. Oh, we're only going to this place because his friend is there and he's trying to get his friend back. Yeah. And that's the purpose. He's not interested in like the politics and the leaders and like the tensions going on between countries. And I mean like things can change. Like I obviously haven't seen it, so I don't know what happens later. But like at this point, it's just not relevant to the story. So to be like, oh, here's this map and we're going to introduce every single place right now so that you can have an idea. and then you'll be disappointed later when we go there and it's not like what I said hundreds of hours ago.
It's like, imagine if you're a teenager and you're like going to travel the world and then you have to learn about every place on the planet. It's just like, it doesn't make sense. So it makes more, it's more alluring and makes more sense from a story perspective to just introduce small bits at a time.
Yeah. And then like, then he can go there and then maybe while he's there, he learns about this other thing, wants to check it out.
But it's also cool because like there's so many characters in the story as we go along. Like we with everyone we talk to, it's like everybody is clearly from a different background. So then you get like little pieces of world building from there. Like, this person like Pockle says he wants to be an exotic game hunter, and like everyone we meet has a different dream of what they want to do.
And Hanzo is all like, "Oh, back in my country,"
but he doesn't say his country.
He doesn't say his country. Yeah. So we're not like, "Oh, that's there," and if we can go there to see him. Oh,
there's a Japan version of Japan in this world. Like, yeah, it's just it like drip feeds you world building in very sometimes relevant, and. It strikes such a good balance. I'm contradicting myself just describing it because like it gives you a lot of relevant information, but yeah, then there's stuff like Hanzo, which like may or may not be relevant, and there's a bunch of stuff that may or may not be relevant, like or just relevant to one area, and we'll breeze past it. Like and that's what makes it feel real. That's what makes the world feel real and good.
It's kind of cool because it's almost like you're playing like one of those video games that you like unlock each area, like you don't know
like Genshin
or like anything like
an MMO,
like Pokemon, even like
or
where
RPG,
it's all like blacked out, and then when you go there, you learn about what's there, but you don't know what's you in Pokemon, you like go around in your area, you find out what's there, you find all the people there, you find all the Pokemon there. All right, then you go into the next area, you don't know what's there, but then you look around and you find out.
Exactly, it's awesome. World building is great. And this is from Johan Liebert, aka Abed. So far, what has interested her the most about the show, and what critiques does she have? Do you have any critiques about the show, or have you not been really thinking that way?
There's nothing that like stands out to me. I've kind of just been having fun with it.
We've also been going really fast
through it. I'm sure, like, probably eventually I'll have some kind of critique. Maybe
what she thinks.
I don't know, but it's
little does she know she's watching the best show of all time.
To me, it's nothing has like happened so far that I'm like, oh, I wish they didn't do that, or like, oh, this could have been better, or like, oh, this didn't really go. You know what I mean? Like, because they're kind of just it's like expect the unexpected. The show, like, I can't be like, oh, I'm so mad that they did the weird candle test instead of a real fight. Oh man, they ruined that whole thing. Like I don't really know what at this point you could even complain about.
Yeah.
Other than like unless you went into it with expectations that then were not met. I didn't know anything about the show, and we decided to watch it on a whim, so it wasn't like, oh, we're gearing up to watch Hunter x Hunter, let's start thinking about what that might be like. I was just like,
you know what would be way better than watching some of the other shows that we have to watch, and we were just like sitting there like, yeah, you want to do it? And then you were like, yeah.
So it's
so good.
I think that like also helps is like, so I wasn't I think
you didn't come
maybe if I just watched Naruto was like, oh, what can I get that's just like Naruto? Oh, everyone really likes Hunter x Hunter. Oh, I'm gonna watch this. Then I'd be like, what the fuck is this? Like when you just come off of Shippuden and you're like, this is so like
you have that like good. Hole in
this
your
is exactly what I want.
Life.
I want this like brotherly rivalry and like trying to be like the leader and like having all these like this very like structure, like basic like shonen story structure of like, you know, whatever. Like if you wanted something like that and we're like desperately craving that exact thing, then I can see how some people might be disappointed when they start this off and it's kids like messing around and this like theme song that's like whatever, like it sounds like you're in Wallace and Gromit or something. Like I don't know, it's.
But again, it is so deceptive. And I remember when I was watching the Normies reaction for Hunter x Hunter back in the day, it's like they kind of illuminate, because I as much as I'm like disagreeing with the idea that the start of it is kind of slow and not like very, a lot of people have that complaint. I kind of felt that way when I watched it for the first time myself, but at this point I fully disagree. And it when I was watching the normies' reaction, I remember when I forget what part it was, when they fall in the spikes, when in the tower. Was it in the tower, at the top of the tower, or was it somewhere else?
There was like a bird that was like, oh,
that was in the forest.
Right, the right way is here, and then some people like ran off a cliff onto spikes.
Yeah. I remember they had a crazy reaction to that. They were like, "Holy shit!" Because like, once you get out of that hallway, that's when like it really starts, and like people are dying left and right.
Yeah, those guys were like turning into mushrooms.
But because it's all like Pokemon looking shit, and because it happens so fast and it's not real like people, it's not characters.
Yeah.
I think like people, it's just so funny to me. Like this might be worthy of like a full deep dive, like hour-long video essay type topic, because like how people perceive and take in like violence in TV and movies and stuff like that, how like they crave it so much, but if it's shown under the wrong circumstances, it's like either way too gruesome or like completely, like, you know, how the tone of the show kind of influences that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's so interesting how like people, how many were people? There were 405 people entering in. 7 made it out. That's it.
Not
Killua
all of them
lived,
died.
but not all of them died. Maybe 50 people lived of the people who got disqualified.
Yeah, most of them died.
Most of them fucking
Anyone
died.
Who didn't make it out of that first part, which was a lot of people.
At least like 300
died.
people.
A lot of people died, like brutally, like horrible deaths. And I think the tone of the show just kind of like I joke about it a lot because I just think that it's so funny.
Yeah.
How it's like,
it is funny.
It's just to me, it's so funny because you have a main character who, like, in another show, because he's so happy, he's all about friendship, he's all about having a good time. He hasn't killed anyone yet. You know, he's always looking for a good way out. He's so wholesome, but he does not blink at blatant murder and
or just
death,
tragedy,
gruesome death. Bad things can happen, and he's like, cool, this is so awesome.
It's like the Spider Eagle's web. Like that's another crazy one.
He's like, hold on, guys. People literally fall to their deaths
beside him, and he
he's
doesn't
not
bat an eye.
phased.
He doesn't
he's
bat
just
an
like,
eye.
Oh well.
He doesn't even mention it.
No, I know. It's like
he doesn't even look over at them.
It's like he has just. It's so funny because it's for everything like that. It's like he has no empathy, or it's not even like registering to him at all that those are like people with their own lives that just died. But then when his friend gets like bullied by his brother, he takes such a serious offense to it.
Yeah, right.
Which is so funny because I'm like, if Killua just died in like a random accident, would the reaction have been as severe, or would it have just been like, oh, well, that's just what happened?
It is kind of interesting, his subjectivity. Like, it's fully subjective based on who he cares about.
Is that just because that was his friend? Or like, if Killua had literally died in a fight, like if it hadn't been his brother, if it had just been a random guy and he had gotten killed in that fight on accident, would he have held it against Gitterocker in such like a severe way? Like,
do you think he would have?
I don't think so. Really,
you don't?
I don't know. I don't.
I mean, he was pissed off enough. Like you said, I think he would have. I think he would have. Like if you think of, he's willing to travel to the ends of the earth, put himself in mortal peril. He like goes up to him and breaks his arm. Like you can see the anger. Like he cares about Killua, but he doesn't seem to care about all the other people who die. And you're right. It is really interesting how he just like the main character of this seemingly wholesome, actually gruesome. But yeah, and that's what I mean about like the deceptive nature of it, and why 2011 I think is. Like, could you imagine, like, if this had the tone of, like, Berserk?
Yeah.
It would miss the mark because so much of it is Gon's perspective, and that's, like, where the theme, like, kind of comes in.
I think that's why it works, is because it's so consistent in the way that it's showing it to us, and we're kind of seeing it in the way that he's seeing it. Like, there's, like, times where I think like other characters have had like a big reaction of like, oh my God, to something. And he's just kind of been like,
Well, yeah, think of when Killua killed that guy.
yeah.
Like,
and
Kurapika and Leorio were like, oh my God.
Yeah, and then he's
Holy
just standing
shit.
there. He's like,
they're like afraid of him.
He's like shocked, but like cool at the same time. You know,
We don't see his reaction.
didn't we? I thought we did, and he was just kind of like,
I don't think so. I think maybe he was like smiling that he won the match. Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
He didn't
But I don't
take
think-
into account like what he just did. Just
I don't
like,
think we saw other characters like when he did that. I think it was very focused in on like the match, and he just like it was like the guy's face as like Killua walks past him. And he's like, "Ugh," looks back, and then Killua's there. But like in the middle of that, I don't think there was a cutaway. I think on purpose, to not show Gon's reaction. You know,
For some reason, I thought that we saw it like after,
Maybe
after the guy died or whatever, and then it like went over and we saw.
I think we saw Killua's like when Killua was like, they were like, "How did you do that?" And he's just like, "Oh, I just manipulated my body." Shink, and he turns his hands into a knife, and then Gon's just like, or something like that, like looking kind of surprised, like, "Whoa, cool."
Yeah, it's
Like-
funny, and I think that's what's so funny because it's kind of like he's decided that this is a person that he likes, so now he can literally get away with murder, and he won't hold it against him at all, like because he's just like I'm from a family of assassins. I've killed countless people.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and that isn't that interesting too. Well, that's literally the story of Killua so far is like that he seemingly just wants to live his life and be a kid, but he's had this like fucked up background. But that he also like doesn't seem that like he's traumatized. There's clearly some shit with his brother and with his family. But
he doesn't-
that's clearly separate from like the reality of being an assassin. Like he doesn't seem very fucked up. He says he doesn't want to kill people. He's messed up about that. He doesn't
And
want
we
to do
have
that.
seen like when we were getting into like where we had to steal the tags from other people, it was like I said like, oh, I wonder if he'll just kill people because he doesn't care. But he doesn't because if he doesn't really have to, there's not really a point to it because it's just as easy either way.
Yeah.
To swipe it off of them,
Yeah. It's like it's really cool. It's really, really cool. Let me see if I have any more questions. If not, we'll end it off here. Unless there's anything more you want to say, anything more you want to talk about.
Not really, I guess. Although, yeah, I don't know. I just find it very amusing to like imagine like if you were actually there and it's like brutally horrific and like horrible. And then what I find would be funny is if like you could see it from like an objective perspective
Right.
of like this is so horrible, and then it like switches to like the happy perspective just from him, and you're just like, this kid is literally psychotic. Like he does not care, It's I don't know why, but I just find it very amusing.
But it's
because you don't
cool.
see it. Yeah, it's cool. You don't
Yeah.
you don't see that in a lot of things. Because normally, like when you have someone like Naruto, for example, because we've made this comparison, Naruto is like very firm in his beliefs of like what he believes in. He doesn't kill people. He doesn't. And like there's a lot of things that are like really hard for him. Demon Slayer, where killing literal demons, and it's a tragedy every
always
single
a
time.
tragedy.
It's like life is so precious, even if you're killing an literal evil demon that has killed hundreds of people and is horrible and is cursed, but it's still a tragedy because they were alive. You know what I mean? It's
Any loss of life is bad.
It's bad. No matter even if it's necessary, it's still bad and not something to be celebrated. But then this is just like,
in a
it
way,
doesn't
it's kind
matter.
of like Jujutsu kind of takes after Hunter x Hunter in the way that like it seems like death is kind of around every corner and like inevitable. Like in Jujutsu, it's like death. They constantly talk in Jujutsu Kaisen about how death is like everyone you know will probably die. Like everyone
but it's
is
still
is
sad.
Yeah,
And
it is
still-
sad, but
yeah.
it's like it is still sad, but it's treated as like an inevitability and something that is kind of weighing on everybody's shoulders. In this, it's like that the possibility is seemingly always there, but like the gravity of it isn't there, like in other shonen. And what about the Naruto comparison again? It's interesting to me how because there's clearly a lot in Naruto's setup, like I've talked about, that is very inspired by Hunter x Hunter. And Naruto's character, if you look back in the Land of Waves arc, if you seriously go rewatch it if you're out there, I pointed this out actually in our reaction during a discussion like early on when Haku shows up for the first time wearing the mask. We don't actually know Haku's with Zabuza, and Kakashi and Zabuza are fighting, and then Haku like kills Zabuza by like poisoning him with like the needles, and makes him like basically appear dead, and then takes his body away. There's an interesting thing where Naruto like breaks down and is like, how dare you do that? Who do you think you are? And it's like, on one hand, it's an interesting moment where he's like, the emotions are balanced between like, how could you kill him and how could you take away my prey almost? And there's that kind of balance that seems to be inspired by like Gon, where Gon doesn't want to kill, but he like also doesn't want to lose. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't want to. He has like a. He doesn't want things to be cut short and like the journey to end. You know what I mean? Like there's that. So there is that kind of like weird balancing act there between like, oh, this is a show made for kids, or this is like a happy-go-lucky story, and like there is a very clear dark element kind of permeating everything, and it's like it's kind of like a fun house, or like a creepy clown. You know, that's what Hunter x Hunter is like. It's like. Like Hisoka, it literally has a creepy clown in it, but like it's kind of like that, where it's this thing that appears joyful, but on the inside, or a crying clown, more like there's a sort of emotional undercurrent to it.
I was just thinking again about when Hisoka was going after Leorio and Kurapika, when he was going after them, and at first Gon was like, well, what happens to them, and then he was like, no, I can't do that. But then he just like has literally zero problems sacrificing that other guy who just got brutally murdered. You know, it's really interesting.
Exactly right. He literally sacrificed. Like he could have taken the tag or intervened, you know, but no, he used that man
especially
as bait.
After he like saw the like murderous intent building.
There's no way Gon had any misgivings about what was about to happen there. And he didn't intervene with Kurapika and Leorio. Was he watching that whole time?
He was watching, yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't do anything.
No.
He just sat there and watched. Isn't that kind of fucked up? Anyway,
he's like, I won't use them as bait, but I won't stop anything from happening. Well,
he was conflicted.
Yeah, he was, which is why I'm saying he so much accepts like that as like part of how it is, that he doesn't want it to happen to his friends, but like it could.
Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah,
kind of thing. Yeah. Well, I think that's a good place to end it. You're hopeful for the next series. Well, I guess, you know, tune in to see Lindsay's predictions. I guess, do you have any predictions that you have right now? Or I'm just kind of excited to see where the story goes.
I think like maybe after we get past the next arc, we might, I don't know, I might like see more where things might be headed, or you know, what it's gonna be like outside of this like structured exam that was taking place.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed watching everything, and so stay tuned. Check out Patreon right now to see the next episodes. They'll be posted there once this is posted on YouTube. Hope you guys enjoyed the discussion, and again, stay tuned. We'll be doing one at the end of the next arc, and every arc after that, maybe some in between, because there's some arcs that like are really long. So you know, maybe at that point we'll split things up a little bit more, but. At this point, you can expect arc-by-arc breakdowns and discussions about what Lindsay thinks about the arc, and a little bit of me after rewatching everything after so long and with a different kind of perspective. So hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.